Badman, LB, Rupert, Albert, and the Bishop Paul Brown. Badman for the 2020-2021. And you know what it is. You know Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego too. This is Paul and Rupert.
We're back!
Coming out with a brand new thought, covered under the blood in which we were born. So we know how to get to.
Is for bold, A is for active, D is for determined. When you consider King David valiantly, you have an idea and understanding of where we're taking this. Stay tuned.
Hallelujah, revive us again.
We are excited to bring fresh commentary, good conversation with two bad men. Boy, you don't want to miss this. Bad Men for Christ. Join us.
Stands for determined, just like Peter when he did his first sermon. As the saying goes, bad men for Christ. That is how we'll be for the rest of our life. Sit back, relax, and enjoy our show because you're stuck in the house with nowhere to go.
Whoa!
Ladies and gentlemen, another edition of the Badman Show. Overseer Rupert Johnson and Bishop Paul Brown coming to you live one more evening. We're glad to have you. We welcome you again to another edition of the Badman Show. We're delighted to have you. God bless you. Overseer, how are you doing, sir?
Well, I am doing fantastic. Thank you, Bishop Brown. It is so good to be here another day. As they say, it is good to be in the land of the living, even though we're not at our full strength, but we're in the land of the living, and it's great. So we thank God again for all of you for coming on and joining us. I was a little bit caught off guard. We jumped in a little bit early. I didn't get a chance to make myself look as handsome as I normally do. So let me just fix myself up here, Bishop. Okay, we're good now. All right, we're good. Okay, so it's good to be here. How are you doing,
Doesn't
Bishop?
help.
For you? Anything going on?
Doesn't help. Does it? Well, I'm excited that we have another edition that we can talk about African history. But I'm also disappointed, Overseer, that this is our last week of our Overcomer series. And I'm looking forward to joining your church on Thursday night as you're going to be hosting the Diocese Bible class. I am expecting a lot of excitement. I just want our audience to know that I am expecting a tremendous evening of Bible study with you and RPC.
Well, you do know that there was 4 weeks ahead of me. So all I did was I just copied little snippets of everybody else's stuff. I'm just going to repeat it. No, but no, we're excited about what's going on. It's going to be a good time. And yeah, I'm a little bit sad about the fact that we have to close out this Overcomer, but I'm excited to know that we just got to pick another day, right, to do it. Another campaign to do again in a couple months. So I'm excited about that too. The next campaign is going to be. So I'm looking forward to it. But we are on this Black History Month tip. We are excited about Black history, and there is nothing as great as acknowledging the fact that the Black man has done a lot for the world and all the civilization.
Well, we started out that last Monday, and we jumped in and talked about some of those great empires that had lasted even millennia before Christ came on the scene. How great they were, and I hope that was an education, and I hope we had inspired in some of our audience to go and do some of their own research. But what do we have for our audience this week?
So what we did is we went back into the archives of the Badman for Christ show, and we said, you know what? Let's pull out one of the top people that we know knowledgeable about this Black history stuff. So we went back into the archives and we bring in Bishop Robert E. Johnson.
That's our guy. That's our guy. That is our guy.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Bishop.
House. Okay, well, I'm sorry.
Amen.
Oh, Bishop, we're glad to have you, man. It's a joy.
It's
It's good to be home. It's good to be home.
Okay. Okay. All right, Bishop. We think that we might have had some new guests since we last have a conversation with you. So we have quite a number. We have a lot of questions to ask you tonight. So just give us a little bit and a little bit about who you are, just to get our audience familiar with your credentials.
Okay. All right. Bless you. Bless you. Bless everyone on the line. I'm Bishop Robert E. Johnson Sr., one of the members of the Board of Bishops of the United Church of Jesus Christ. And I'm just excited anytime I see these two gentlemen that I sometimes say I helped to raise. Helped to raise them. Bishop Brown brought him in when he was just a young fella and brought him into the office of the United Church when I was the General Secretary. And to see how he has grown. And fortunately, I had an opportunity to serve as the diocesan of that diocese, which these gentlemen are now running. And of course, Overseer Rupert is just very special because his dad and I have had a very close relationship. And it was because of his dad and him and his sister that I was able to become the diocesan of the Second Episcopal Diocese. And I used to always say it was the best diocese in the United Church. And I just thank God for that. And to see how far you gentlemen have grown and come just really makes my heart glad. It's hard for me to believe that come this year, I'll be 75 years old. And I've been
wow. Congratulations.
And to see how you fellas have just done what you've done. And I say sometimes I feel like those of you that remember Popeye, there was a fella in there, Wimpy. Every time I hear what you all are doing, my buttons pop off my shirt because to see how you all grown makes my heart glad. So I was a history teacher, professor. I wrote a book on the history of the Christian church. History has been a part of my life for over 40 plus years. So I'm just glad to be a part tonight, brother. That I think that's my story in a nutshell.
Awesome, awesome. Well, Bishop, we know that you were in a town hall last week.
Yes.
Because we wanted to have you on our intro Black History show, but you couldn't do it because you were a busy man with many things to do. People are asking you left and right to come and talk about Black history. So
yes,
could
sir.
you give us a little snippet about how that town hall went and what you were talking about and so forth?
Okay. How that came about, believe it or not, because Channel 45, Fox 45 as it's called here in Maryland, have a sort of town hall thing every week, every month. It's called Your Voice, Your Future. And they primarily deal with political things and whatever going on in the day and whatever. But they wanted to do one on Black history, as you're saying. It was titled MLK, The Dream Delayed. They had contacted your presider, you know, because of course everybody in Maryland knew his father, my father-in-law, Bishop Monroe Saunders Sr., Apostle Monroe Saunders Sr., and they called him to ask him to be a part of that program. And he told them, oh, no, get my brother. He's a historian. He'll give it to you like it is. So I had an opportunity to be on a panel with 4 other major preachers in the city. Bishop Greg Dennis, who is the son of Apostle Ralph Dennis, and they have one of the larger churches here in Baltimore. Bishop J.L. Carter, who is the pastor of the Ark Church, and then Pastor Yerman, who is the pastor of Douglas Memorial AME. And then they picked me, or got me involved. And I guess what happened to really blow their minds in that regard was they were talking about Martin Luther King and all of that. And I had an opportunity to say I was there. And they looked around at me, gentlemen, because they said, that was 1963. I said, yes, I was a sophomore in high school. I told them, I said, this year I'll be 75. And they looked at me. They said, you don't look anything like 75. I said, thank God. God is good. But having been there on that day, August 28, 1963, I said, I'm a Washingtonian, native Washingtonian. So it was nothing for me to travel downtown from where I lived and be a part of that whole day. So that's how that came about.
I got a follow-up question, Bishop. So you were there on an historic day back in 1963, and you've also been alive to see Obama become president of the United States. Which one was more exciting to you? Because both were powerful, but which one do you feel is going to have a bigger impact on history?
When you say have a bigger impact, I don't know if everybody's seen the movie. They've shown it a couple of times already here in February, and it's a movie everybody should see. I don't know if you've seen it. It's called The Butler.
No.
That had Oprah Winfrey, Samuel Jackson, and a few others. And what it was, The Butler, it was a story of one of the first blacks who went into the White House as a butler, who lived through several presidents from John Kennedy up until Obama.
Yep.
And like he said, to have gone through all of those presidents, you know, Kennedy, Johnson, Nixon, all of them up to Obama, then the thing about it, like he said, to have lived through all of that, to have been in that position, to see something that we never thought we would ever see in our lifetime, was a black man becoming president of the United States. You know, that was one of those far-fetched. But when you say which one was the most impactful, again, I would have to say really it was the election of Obama. That was part of the dream that Martin had. And I had fun. It really kind of blew their minds too. I say the amazing thing about it was Martin Luther King was not the main speaker that day, but he stole the show. You cannot remember any of the other speakers who spoke that day because it was really put together as a march on Washington for better jobs and, you know, equality, because A. Philip Randolph, who was the head of the sleeping car porters, you know, the porters on the train, were not getting equal treatment or pay. And Bayard Ruskin, you know, and that's what made that movie The Butler what it was, because the butler himself went to Johnson saying he felt that they should be able to get equal pay for the work that they did. And to have Johnson say to him, well, if you don't like what you're doing here, find another job. That was not the purpose of it. So when Martin got up and started talking about, I have a dream. See, at that time, Martin was only 34 years old.
Young man.
And they had him on the program simply because of the bus boycott that occurred in Montgomery, Alabama. And the thing about that was that didn't happen. Here's where I have fun, brother. And y'all have to excuse me when I say this. I'd say what's funny. We talk about the civil rights movement. We talk about, you know, what people like Martin Luther King and all of them. Huh?
Is that your phone?
Yeah, Mom got that one. That was for her today.
I just want to make sure. No, you're a busy man. I want to make sure it wasn't a president calling you for anything. I want to make sure.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
So Bishop, as you're finishing that up, I want you to lead into the segment as you're talking about that dream. One of the segments of the town hall that you did, there were 4 segments. One of the segments was, have we reached Dr. King's dream of racial equity and
equality and equity?
Equality and equity, yeah.
Okay, so I'll say this real quick on this wise. I said I have fun saying. I said, really, brethren, watch this now. Don't leap on me. I said there would have been no civil rights movement if there had been no women. Emmett Till's mother and Rosa Parks are the ones who really should be credited for starting it. The reason it got to Martin, because Martin was a 27-year-old preacher who had just been sent to Montgomery. So they figured if somebody, was going to serve as the quote unquote guinea pig or whatever. Let the young preacher, he's new, nobody knows him, but we all know how he went on to become as famous as he did in that speech in Washington, as we say, from a 34-year-old to hear a man say, I have a dream that one day all of my children, and you all know the speech and so forth. So to get to that statement, as you say, Bishop, my answer to that question when it was raised, some of the brothers were talking about how they were raised and whatever, and the struggle for equality and equity. I said, well, those two words actually have different meanings. When you talk about equality, you're talking about fairness. But when you talk about equity, then you're looking at an outcome that they're on the same plane. So are you treated fair? And are you on the same plane? And the answer to that question is no and no. Because of the fact, here's one thing we have a hard time understanding. We only make up 14.5% of the population here in the United States. If we're going to talk about United States. So then most of us live in areas where there's nothing but black folk. So we think that black folks everywhere. But when I went to school at Eastern Nazarene College up in Quincy, Massachusetts in the fall of 1965. There were only 6 blacks on the campus of 980 plus students. Okay. And when I played ball up there, Rupert, when we used to go up to play in the University of Maine, I'd be the only one, as the saying goes, I'll be the only ink spot in the building. And so to answer your question, Paul, real quick, have we reached the dream? No. And the sad part of it is, until we get to the place of understanding that until we are treated fairly, we've had a couple of, if I talk about school, we've had a couple of cases in the school in our history. Plessy versus Ferguson in 1898 talked about separate but equal. That thing does not exist anywhere. You can't be separate but equal. If you're going to be equal, then you got to be together. All right. Then in 1954, when they talked about Brown versus the Board of Education, they fought to be able to get black children in white schools. Now, here's where I get in trouble. I said, to tell you the honest truth, I said the worst thing that happened to us as a people was integration. Because, here's my point. When I was in school, I really didn't encounter white folk until I got to high school. My early years, my elementary school, all black teachers, and they made us learn, because they knew what we had to do in order to even be accepted. Can I give you a modern day thing that's getting ready to happen? And I'm watching this closely because I want to see how it plays out. By the fact that Biden said he wants to appoint a black female to the Supreme Court. The ones on the Supreme Court don't have the credentials that these 5 top ladies have. But all they're looking at is the color of their skin. See, that has been the thing that has separated us from the beginning of time.
Yeah. So, overseer, we had a comment from Taffinese, and we have a question from Mark. So let's get our audience involved here. Yeah. Let's bring in Taffinese's comments first.
Yeah, I was gonna say, everybody, again, please like and subscribe to our
show. All right,
show.
bring in Taffinese, yeah,
okay. Family, and let them know about it. And if you have questions, of course, send your comments and questions. Bishop, I'm sure we're gonna get a lot of comments and questions because and we even got to the ancient stuff. You're still dealing with the United States. We want to get to some of the ancient stuff. But here's a question from Taffinese Brown. It's a great reminder, or a comment. It's a great reminder that social inequality was not that long ago. That's why I don't think we should portray MLK and others in BLWH because it's more current than what you current than many want to acknowledge. What are your thoughts on that, sir?
Okay, so in a sense, then what is Tiffany's really trying to say when she say we should portray MLK and others in a black, white, or here's the thing. Now I got kind of tickled because I raised this question as well. We put a lot of emphasis on Martin Luther King, right? I talked to my son. Both of y'all know my son, Robert Jr. God bless his heart. He said something to me that was very interesting. He said, Dad, he said, think about it. He said, we proclaim him as a hero. But in his day, he was the most hated man in the country. That's why he was killed. He died for his beliefs of trying to bring about fairness and equality. And what got me, Robert didn't say that he was only following in the footsteps of Jesus. He was killed at 39. Jesus was killed at 33.
Yeah, Bishop, and you know, to strike the point is the reason why I think MLK, we have to have such an esteem for the man is, like you said, he wasn't a political or even a big minister or preacher when he was called to do this. He
Right.
was unknown, but
That's
he
right.
stepped up, knowing probably that his life would be a concern on the line.
Right.
And he did it. So the same way we esteem Jackie Robinson in baseball for the same exact reason. He wasn't the best black baseball player. He was there because he was somebody that could take what was about to be thrust on him and not be in a negative light. And that's what he did. He was threatened. His life was threatened every day. But I look at Martin Luther King as being that guy, said, knowing that he was going to be persecuted, kind of like Jesus. He knew he was going to be persecuted. Yeah. But he did what he had to do. So yeah, I'm not calling Martin Luther King a Jesus, but I'm saying that we do have to still have to have some reverence to him.
Well, so on the same note, then it says Mark Brodus is asking, what do you think life would be like if Martin Luther King was still alive?
Well, let me give you one of the last quotes that Martin Luther King made. It was one of the last statements he made because I shared this in that town hall meeting. Martin Luther King said that human progress is neither automatic or inevitable. He said the struggle must continue in those that selflessly labor for equality in ways both big and small deserve our respect and thanks. And you know what he said? He said, put it this way. He said, when a man says, I can eat an elephant, he said, we're looking at, you can't eat no elephant. He said, yes, I can. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. One bite at a time. And that's why King in that speech that day says, what? I may not get there with you, but as a people, we will get there. You know?
It's huge. That's
so huge. That's why I said I don't see it happening. I don't. I say I'm 75. Maybe you younger folk can bring about an understanding, but when you talk about equality, it'll never happen because it's the nature of humans to compete. You know, who's better? You know, they sing that song, anything you can do, I can do better. You know, we're always constantly competing. And see, the thing about it was when they made slavery what it was in 1634, from 1619 to 1634, blacks were free. They were landowners. Watch this, y'all. They were also intermingling. And what was happening is the white folks were losing their identity. And the only thing that whites had over blacks was they were white and could be free. See, that's why they kept the blacks in slavery, because that gave them the opportunity to dominate. And that's just in our nature, to dominate.
Yeah, it's human nature, right? It's human nature.
Because, and you especially know this, Ruben. Look at In the sports world, you want to dominate.
Yeah.
You know, you want to be the dominant team, the winning team. And you see the issue happening right now. NFL. One black coach in the entire NFL. Do you have a black owner? No. It won't happen.
No full black owner. You have minority owners. You have 2 minority owners, but no black African-based owners. Correct.
Right.
And that's a different story. Bishop, I can talk about that for days.
Yeah. So I see this question says, were you comfortable being there and how did they treat you? You know, the interesting thing, and I'm glad you raised that question, it was about halfway through my freshman year in college that my college roommate, his name was Wayne Hassinger, and all of you've seen the picture and all. He was a young man that was in my wedding. And I have to tell y'all this, I laughed to no end when I asked Wayne to come and be a part of our wedding. We got married at 3400 Copley Road. Some of you know about it. When Wayne came through the door, Rupert, Paul, the mouths flew open. They couldn't believe I had asked Wayne to be a part. But it was halfway through my freshman year that Wayne finally told me. He said he was written a letter from the school asking him, watch this, did he mind rooming with a colored boy?
Wow.
Wayne said, he sent back, he said, I just asked one question, Bob. He said, he is a boy, isn't he?
So Bishop, Bishop, to kind of wrap up that town hall that you did, one before we get onto some of the questions and African American greatness, I wanna ask, since we're overseer is a pastor, I am a pastor, you yourself being a bishop, how did you handle the question? Is the church still a voice in the African American community? And again, we need to kind of highlight the fact, your book, that you have a book out, the Roots, our legacy in the history of the modern church.
Yes, sir.
Again, I want to ask our guests, please feel free to send questions to Bishop Johnson. You want to ask the questions now while we have him here. So,
right.
Bishop, African American Church, what voice? Do we still have a voice?
All right, now hold on to your seat. You want me to really answer that the way I answered it for them?
Yes.
And they shook their heads. I put it to you this way. Is the church still the voice? Unfortunately, I have to say no, not really.
I agree.
Politics has become the new religion. We're wrapped up in politics, competing with one another, worried about how many members we're going to have, how much money we're going to bring in. Don't rock the boat, then they won't bother you. And here again, Paul, I'm glad you asked that question, because here again, I turned around. I said, Robert, you're a millennial. I said, what is it that the church makes the church what it is today? Here was his answer, Paul. Now, Robert is 40 years old. He'll be 41 this year. In fact, he'll be 41 next month. He said to me, he said, Dad, he said, I hate to tell you. He said, but the church today really doesn't stand for anything. He said, we're afraid to take a stand because we're afraid we would lose out or whatever. He said, the role of the church is to stand as the voice and not be afraid. You know, see, prophets were in the courts of the kings, but they were not too much accepted because why? They didn't want to hear what the prophets had to say, and the prophets were not afraid to tell the truth. You know, and as I heard, and I hate to say it, as I heard Jake say the other week, because I listened to him, he said, people aren't afraid of God anymore. And why do I say that? because I'm watching on the news, and when I saw this the other day, and I might get castigated for this as well. I said, when I saw Ron Reagan, who is the son of Ronald Reagan, who is a dyed-in-the-wool atheist, he has a foundation out now called Freedom from Religion Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
He said, we got to remove the albatross of the church from around the necks of the people. And you know what he said? He said, I'm not afraid to die in hell because it ain't that bad.
Yeah.
I said, well, at least if he's admitting there's a hell, then he must know there's a heaven. So you're going either one place or the other. And if he's not afraid to burn in hell, then hey.
Let him.
But the fact is being thrown out there that people hear that stuff.
Yeah, Bishop.
I'm sorry.
No, Bishop. There's a big thing, and Debbie. Let me. I'll read Debbie's comment before I do mine. Debbie Johnson is saying your daughter, your spiritual daughter, Deborah Johnson is saying
that's my baby. Don't talk about my girl now.
Isn't it true that the black church can harm our progress? When I ran for office, many said my behavior was ungodly, and my father to shut them down. Isn't it true many churches refuse to let its members? As a second part of it, please bring it up. Let its members engage in politics and law. Many are areas Christians need to be in. You know this too, Bishop, because your son is heavily in politics. You know that my sister Debbie was heavily in politics,
right,
and that the church didn't always think we should be in the political realm because the political realm is not as clean as people would want it to be.
Well, can I answer that on that wise, Rupert? And I thank God. I say, well, it must have had to be the Lord, because my intent, I wanted to be a lawyer. I didn't want to be a preacher. I wanted to be a lawyer. Well, what you just said, see, the old school preachers, in fact, they didn't even want me to go away to school because they thought I would lose my religion going away to school.
Yeah.
But my dad made it a point that at least it was a religious college, so he would get a little bit of religion. But my father said, no, you can't be no lawyer. Lawyers lie too much. And you'd have to lie too much. But as you just said, and as Sis says, those are the places we ought to be. You know, when you read in the Bible, when you talk about the prophets, if it were not for the prophets being in the courts of the king, what would it have been like?
Yeah, I thought Joseph was a political leader. I thought he was.
He was second. But now see, here's the thing about that. Now watch that. He was second in command to the Pharaoh, right? So let me give you a little more history since we're in Black history. The reason why his name is not mentioned among the 12 tribes is because he was married to a black woman, and his two sons, Manasseh and Ephraim, were considered black. And that was not accepted in Jewish culture. Okay.
So Bishop, Ken Walsh had a question there that is a little bit aligned with the politics of today.
Right.
He says, don't rock the boat on politics, vaccines, many other subject. Your views.
Right. When he said don't rock the boat, because again, if you want to be accepted, then what do we say? We go along to get along. But like we say, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And again, when we point to Martin Luther King, what he preached peace. And the other thing that got him killed or got the other brother killed, many folks don't realize that he and Malcolm were meeting and they were planning, Reverend, as I found out in history, as I've researched and whatever, they were planning to join forces. Now, can you imagine what it would have been like with Malcolm and Martin operating together? You saw the movie Malcolm X, right?
Yep.
And when he got Johnson out of prison, what did that police lieutenant say? When all Malcolm did was stand on the steps and point his finger. and the fellas turned and marched away. He said, that's too much power for one man.
So, yeah, so Bishop, then I gotta jump in here a little bit here. So how then how we can when you say we don't want to rock the boat, we're gonna deal with laws that are now coming in Florida to make sure that uh, European white Americans are not offended
Right,
by statements of slavery, racism, that they don't feel uncomfortable.
right.
Boat gotta be, somebody gotta rock some boat.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's going to take, when we say us to stand together, once we stop competing with each other, that's my thing. Once we stop competing with each other and realize that what is what the words say, one can chase 1,000, two can put 10,000 to flight. Or the other statement, a house divided against itself cannot stand. As Rupert pointed out earlier, democracy is headed down the tubes because of the fact, and we saw it, and we're seeing it on an everyday basis. And I'll say it, and nobody else say it. I said Trump did what he did because he wanted to hold on to power. He didn't care about government or anything. He wanted to be in charge. And if I can say this, I'll say this openly, and I may get castigated for it too. I said, what hurt me the most? I'll go back just a few years ago. We had an opportunity here in Baltimore, Paul, to have on Pentecost Sunday to celebrate, bring the brethren together, and do it together, right? You know why it never came off? We were prepared to use Memorial Stadium, you know, where the Orioles play. We were going to have people come from everywhere. But you know what became the dividing line? They said, who's going to preach? And I said, what has that got to do with it? I said, if nobody preaches, the fact of over 100,000 black ministers, pastors, members coming together in one place will say a whole lot.
Bishop,
but as you said, it's kept us divided for so long. You know, can I use a terminology that one of my other sisters used? They call it chitlin mentality. We haven't gotten off the farm yet. You know, they talk about, well, if you're not afraid to use the terminology, talk about, they say house niggas in the field. You know, I got in trouble one time because I said to a person, and I was just saying it, I said, well, I get a few more things because, you know, I'm lighter than you and you might be considered a darkie. They got insulted. I wasn't saying that to put them down, but to show how it was differentiated. Because like I said, when I was in college, it was always, they would have fun with me because I was so fair-skinned. Okay? Can I give you a situation real quick? When we moved to Florida, I pastored in Florida for 1.5 years. When we went to Florida, I came home one day from work. When I came home from work, I went to Florida based on the fact that I had applied for a job down there, right? Over the phone, everything was fine. You know, oh, your credentials are impeccable. Yada, yada, yada. Doc, when I got there, I opened the door, I walked in. I said, my name is Robert Johnson. I'm here for the job, you know, for the interview for the job that I applied for. I was told to come. And you know what was the statement that came out of the secretary's mouth? She looked at me and said, you don't talk like them. And I said to her, I said, well, I'm sorry, darling. You know, I went to college. I have a college degree. I don't speak broken English. You know, I learned English. I speak the King's English. And I ended up working in J.C. Penney's because the job suddenly was not available.
So, oh my, well, again, we're glad to audience. We're glad to have Bishop Robert Johnson, a senior, with us, and we want you to continue to send your questions, but we want to also let you know you can support the Badman Show. We have some merchandise that you please feel free to reach out and grab
Yes.
one of our t-shirts,
Right.
both for husband and wives, and even some cups. Overseer, do you see anything you like?
You know, I love it all.
Me too. I'll be sending for some now that I know it's available.
Yes, sir. We have shirts, mugs, hats. Even, let's go. This is my favorite one right there. The hat. I love the Badman hat with the mask on it. So you can wear the hat and have the mask right there. So I
Right.
love that one. That's one of my favorites. So please, get what you can. Go to our website or email us at badman4christ@gmail.com. We have an email. We have a website now, Badman for Christ. Either place you can go to, you can make your orders. Please support us. We're trying to do big things, but your biggest support is being on with us, telling your friends, subscribing, and liking. Let's get back to this because we got a lot of questions for Bishop.
Yeah, you got a question. Yeah, let's get to these questions. Overseer Bishop, we're gonna ask you.
Let's go back. We got to go back to Sister Kellerman's question, please. Let's go back to. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So, Carlene Kellerman said, "Yes, very true. It's time for us as children of God to step out and go where others before us didn't go. How can we make a change if we don't go where change is needed? The church has been too silent on so many levels for too long. If we want to see change, we have to make change." That's why I started giving a comment, Bishop, and I think you said the same thing with your thoughts. But to drag a question out of that though is this, because you said it with the memorial you were going to do, the Pentecost at the stadium. People wondering who was going to be the preacher. How can we make a change without people, or without the leaders becoming humble and saying, it's not about me, it's not about my church, it's not about my brand, it's about us being effective? Do you think that will ever become something that will happen?
And Bishop, we're kind of shortened up the answers because we want to get to as many questions as we can get before the end of the show.
Okay. Rupert, to answer your question, I'm saying, and I believe and hoping that your generation, sir, are open enough to interact with one another. We separated ourselves, my generation and older, because coming through the civil rights movement and all of that, it was like, are we building the kingdom of God? Are we building our kingdom? You see what I'm saying? And so that's what we got to, either we stand together or we fall individually, so bind us together with cords that cannot be broken.
Wow.
Next question. Want to read it, Bishop, or me?
No, go ahead, Bishop. Go ahead, Overseer.
So Bob Thomas, another good friend of the show, he says, should we endeavor to pray and pray, or should we endeavor to pray and stay, or should we pray and go, need to settle this issue with my son? I guess his son's asking a question. Should we pray and stay, or should we pray and go?
Well, I would ask, pray and go where? We're here. This is where we are now. Okay. How many of us know anything about Africa other than what we read and see and so forth and so forth?
But last week, we don't know much. We talked about it last week, Bishop. We don't know much.
So we're here. If we're here and we helped to build this country, not too many people know that the city of Washington, D.C. was actually built by a black man.
Right. Architect.
Pierre L'Enfant. Pierre L'Enfant, real quickly, got upset because they didn't give him enough money. He wrapped up his little things and went home right in the middle. And Franklin Noe said, well, what are we going to do? And because of a black man named Benjamin Banneker said, we can still build the city. He said, how can we build the city? He said, I know the plans. I said, how do you know the plans? He said, I have them right here, up here. And he went out and he drew those plans, and that's how Washington got built. But we don't get credit for that because we don't teach that. See, that's what I'm saying. We need to teach our history. And as I've said to you, Paul, what'll really help us is that Bible that's out there. We need to get it. The Men of Color Bible shows black folk throughout the Bible from the beginning to now. See, men of color. I'm saying, brother, and people of color in the Bible. They have from Job to Revelation, but men of color goes from Genesis to the end. I always raise this question. I say, if Jesus was so lily white with blonde hair, blue eyes, how did he hide out in Egypt for over 2.5 years? Not possible, because the Bible says what? He has feet like brass, hair like wool. Only people that have wool hair is us. So come on, those of you that still have some hair on your head.
I was going to say, like some of us, Bishop.
So that's what I'm saying.
Yes. So Bishop, and also, so let's. I'm waiting for another question to come. We have another one from the audience. We have another question from the audience. If not, I'm going to ask this question. Yes. Okay. Yes. So another friend of the show, Trisha Bay, says, yes, the church tends to be very divided, and we need to think on a broader level, God's kingdom. And that question goes to, we think too small. We look at our own local church and not the broader picture.
Okay. I put it this way very quickly. In my book, as you know, there's a chart from Azusa Street to now, right? And the one thing that Seymour told folk, he told the brethren on his deathbed, stay in fellowship with one another. Don't organize, because the minute you organize, you build walls. Fellowship. And as Dad used to say, all the fellas in the same ship. If you look from Azusa Street to now, that's what got me started, y'all. My college professor, his name was Dr. Alvin Kaufman. I was in my philosophy class. I was the only black in the class. He got to me, I introduced myself, said, my name's Robert Johnson. I'm from Baltimore, Maryland. I'm a member of the First United Church of Jesus Christ Apostolic. And he said, Johnson, can I ask a question? I said, yes, sir. He said, why are there so many of you? Hear me. I said, we're the fastest growing organization in the country right now. He said, here's my question. Don't you all say one Lord, one faith, one baptism? I said, yes. He said, well, why are there so many of you? I walked across the campus, dialed 410-542-5800. All y'all know what that number was. He said to me, Robert, how can I help you? I said, Dad, I'm upset. I said, my professor just embarrassed me. Why are there so many of us? He said, I'll tell you when we get home. So we got home. I hate to say it, Doc, but every division in the apostolic movement was not over doctrine, was not over the Bible. It was over who was in charge. The AME church, when Richard Allen died, there was a fight. They divided. The ones that went down the street said they couldn't call themselves AME because there was already one AME. So what they called themselves? CME, Colored Methodist Episcopal Church. Hello. Until we get it together, brother.
Bishop, it's the same way.
The leadership now.
Bishop, it's the same way today.
Amen.
Split not because of some doctrinal issue. They split because he wants to be a leader, and instead of just staying there helping, they want to take people and do it. It works the same way. There's no difference today than it was, 50, 100 years ago. And it's crazy. Here's a question from Pauline Moss, or at least a comment. Some of us are operating in Africa, even with limited knowledge. But I would caveat that, Bishop, right? And see if I'm wrong, you kind of answer it, is that they're doing mission work. So when you go to Africa to do mission work, you're helping people in the now. You really don't know their history. You really don't know their background. You really don't know sometimes how they got to where they are from where they were. Do you think that we as Black people have hurt ourselves, especially in the Africa region? Have we hurt ourselves by the same power struggle that we've always been going through, not uniting?
Right. I mean, here again, can I refer to the Bible? Who did Philip meet on the road?
Eunuch. Yep. Ethiopia.
Where was he from?
Ethiopia.
Thank you. Where's Ethiopia?
In Africa.
Thank you.
Eastern Africa.
So Africa got the gospel, Reverend, before anybody. Okay? So they are steeped in it. And that's why I say, get that book, and it's going to change a whole lot of folks thinking. And hopefully the young folks will get it and realize that their history is steeped from the beginning to the end. You know, and we are descendants, of Abraham.
Yeah.
So Bishop, let me ask then. So do you think our focus on the 300 years of African American history, Black history in America, is intended to hide thousands of years of greatness of past African empires?
Yes, sir.
When we just focus this narrow slice,
right.
What are your thoughts?
Narrow slice, because that way the thought is we would know nothing about religion until it was brought to us by the white folk and slavery and the such like. When their history is more storied, our history goes back further than anybody can realize or understand. As I was just saying, we are descendants of Abraham. How are we descendants of Abraham? Because when Sarah died, Abraham married again, and his wife is in Genesis chapter 25, married a woman named Keturah, who was a woman of color, and she had 6 sons, Reverend, 6. They made up all the nations of Africa.
Bishop, you don't even have to go that far, because Hagar was an Egyptian.
Was a black woman.
That's so she was the first to bring forth a child, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but I go back to what we talked about last week, Bishop. When I talk about Cush or Ham and Cush, right? The Cushites being a black nation and being one of a powerful black nation that reigned and even reigned in or over the pharaohs in Egypt for a point of time. So it's crazy that we don't know that history unless you look it up ourselves.
Right. And the word Egypt means black, Doc.
Wow, didn't even know that.
And watch this. Can I have fun?
Good, Bishop. Finish it. Yeah. Finish the thought.
They talk about the 3 Hebrew boys, Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego. Go back and look up that name. Abednego means a black man. So I always say Shadrach, Meshach, and a bad Negro. Bad man in the fire.
Amen.
Again, we want to say thank you, Bishop. We appreciate you for coming. We're running out of time, Bishop. Running out of time. Yeah. He can get out as excited as he wants. We still running out of time. I need Bishop, and I need for you to provide some direction as a father to all these young men, because overseer is a young fellow.
I'm an old man.
How do we continue to move forward based upon what you're seeing today, where we're coming from, the history, the great history that we have? How do we continue moving forward?
See, I see Ken's question. He says, "Is that the enemy attacking us with money and power?" Right. That's been the trick of the enemy from the very beginning. Said the lust of the eye, the lust of the flesh, and the pride of life is all wrapped up in money and things. But when we can study our history, and teach our history. See, Bishop Paul, when I was teaching it, even in our churches and whatever, I had some say to me, "Bishop, we've never heard this. We've never been taught this." I say, well, this is our responsibility now, is to try to get it over to you all as quickly as we can. Simon, here's my brother Simon. Says, did senior or junior incidents of racism in England?
So Bishop, we ought to let our audience know that Simon is related to you.
My brother-in-law. He's married to my sister-in-law. And he's from England, see. So, yeah, because the thing was, it was the English who were capturing blacks, taking them to America. And just to even, not only in England, but the thing was, see, if I can say this real quick, the Civil War, the reason why Lincoln made slavery the issue because the English had planned to join the South with the English Navy because they were losing their cotton. And so instead of making it a war over separation of North and South, he made it the issue of slavery. That's why he issued the Emancipation Proclamation on January the 1st, 1863, to keep England out of the war. Otherwise, this country would have been split in half. But again, they were the ones that perpetrated the whole thing of slavery.
Yeah, but there's
all right, Simon, you heard your legacy.
So Bishop, one of the questions that we asked, and we want to make sure that we ask this question, right? So what do you feel about the importance of schools, churches? Should they really be teaching, or should we go out there, parents even, should we be teaching comprehensive Black history other than just these little histories that we hear?
Right. Teach our children. My son got me in trouble when he was in middle school. He came home telling me, Dad, you got to come to my school. I said, why? He said, because the teacher was teaching it wrong. And I told him, he said, that's wrong. He said, what do you mean it's wrong? We were talking about, Washington and the American Revolution and all. He said, that's wrong. He said, what do you mean it's wrong? Because my daddy taught me it was wrong. Who's your dad? He said, well, he said, he's a Black history teacher. So if you want to hear it right, you need to have my father. So I had to go to his school. He was in middle school at the time, y'all.
So overseer, let's recognize our vice presiders joining us today.
My brother,
Bishop Lewis. Bishop John C. I have one of your colleagues that has joined in to listen to you.
That's my brother.
So I'm glad I was on good behavior. The vice was on.
I don't think so. Overseer.
That was good behavior, man.
You were just having a trip.
And we definitely do need a part two. You're deaf righteous and Brown. We need a part two. But Bishop, there's tons more questions that I have, and I think that our audience would have, and I think that hopefully they'll tell somebody about this, and they'll watch some of our replays about the show and tell us, hey, you guys have another part. We need more, and we'll definitely have you back. We told you that when you did the Black church history, and now this is. We didn't even get into the ancient Africa, which we wanted to get a little bit more deeper into those tribes and what they mean. But with Black history, sir, it is incredible the amount of information that we as growing up don't know. Here's the son of United too, Bishop Joseph Callender, the son of Bishop or grandson of Bishop Callender, I think it is.
Yeah, Bishop Obadiah Callender. That's Joe.
On there. So it's what we don't know about the history. There are movies out there, there are books out there that we can read or watch or show our kids and help them understand. But I would like to say that the most important thing that we can do as a Black people is stop fighting each other and work with each other. It doesn't make a difference how much history you know if you don't change and help move our needle. It will always be the same. Black businesses open, Black people crush them. Black churches open, Black people have something to say about them. It's incredible how we are more negative to each other than we are in a lot of cases positive.
So two things, overseer, we want to acknowledge our media staff, our producers, Deacon Minot and brother Ken Walsh. But we also want to say to our audience, at 9 p.m., join Bishop Robert Johnson and overseer Jacqueline Johnson on what's the title of that musical that you do?
It's called Facebook Live, Jacqueline Johnson, and it's music from the minstrel. This today will be her 582nd day. She's March the 28th, 2020, and God has been good from all over.
And
over.
Remember to pick up a copy of his book. Yes. Yes,
Thank you.
again, we thank you so much. We want to say to our audience, thank you all for joining us. We
God bless
really
all of
appreciate
you.
it.
Thank
Please
you.
spread the word. Overseer, it's getting out. We got a couple bishops that joined us on this on this evening. Maybe it's because we have Bishop Johnson to come on. He drew that audience. God bless
Yeah.
you all. Overseer, have the last word and get us out of here until Monday next week.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
So
sir.
please don't forget the books from Bishop Johnson, The Roots, Our Legacy in the History of the Bowden Church. Bring the next slide in where we talk about the two Bibles. Thank you. The Men of the King James Version, Men of Color Study Bible, and People of Color in the Bible. Also, the movie you mentioned, don't forget that movie. If you haven't seen it, I'm going to watch it, called The Butler. So let's get all those things out there. We thank you, Bishop Robert E. Johnson,
God
Sr.
bless you.
We thank you for joining us. Stick around. Please don't go.
Yes.
We got stuff to talk about. I want to debrief. But thank you, Bishop Paul Brown, my buddy, my friend, my co-host. Thank you, sir. Thank you, everybody.
You're welcome,
watching.
Overseer.
Producers.
Yes, we're
And
gone.
we see you next week. Same time, same channel. The Bad Man Show. God bless you.
Again, B to the A to the D to the M. So sing hallelujah, revive us again. B to the A to the D to the M. So sing hallelujah, revive us again. B to the